I'm not particularly one to make New Year's resolutions. But I do kind of have soft New Year's resolutions. I do kind of want to put more time and energy into my content creation channels, Twitch and YouTube. And I would like to... Oh, yes, that's the other one. Is I want to move my mic closer to myself so it sounds a little bit better. I want to learn how to draw. This year, I'm hoping to trying to doing practicing and learning how to draw, and so eventually being able to make my own channel art for Twitch and YouTube. And that has been spurred on by the fact that I commissioned 2 different artists to make channel art for my Twitch channel, and both of them used gave me AI generated crap. And so I'm a little peeved about that. And I'm always one to say, why use AI when you could just learn how to draw? So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and learn how to draw and make the stuff myself. Hopefully by the end of the year. We'll see. It's not going to be good. But I want it to look amateurish, because I am an amateur. But today, I wanted to go through a list of stuff I've done, video games I played in 2025, on stream and off, talk about them a little bit, my experiences with them, how maybe things have changed for me. I know, and also maybe talk about how the year's going a little bit. I know that for a lot of people, it's been a pretty rough year, all things considered. That being said, I will say I've had a pretty good year, myself personally. Some amazing games came out. I got to play them. I got a promotion at work. It's been a pretty good year, but it feels disingenuous to talk about how it's been good for me this year when everything's just been so shitty for so many other people, and so many already disadvantaged communities are being hit even harder now in the past year. But I like to be a person who brings brevity and positivity into the world and not negativity. So with all that being said and understood, I would like to talk about the good things that happened to me this year, starting with some of the games that I played on and off stream. I'm going to start with Nine Souls, because while I technically played it last year, but I have played it within the year. While it technically was at 2024, I streamed it starting in 2024. It was the first game I consistently started streaming on Twitch. I have streamed on Twitch before. I tried playing Hollow Knight a couple times, and I think Blasphemous maybe, but Nine Souls is specifically the first game that I consistently streamed on Twitch. And it's gonna be a lot of I love this game, because I love most of the games that I played. But yeah, Nine Souls. Nine Souls is a game that I played in a time period after I had beaten Hollow Knight, when I was waiting for Silksong to come out. I joined the wait pretty late, but I still waited a good year and some change for it. And Nine Souls was sold to me as if you are a game to play if you're waiting for Silksong. And because of that, I immediately jumped in, grabbed the game, and decided it would be the first game that I played streaming on Twitch. And it is a fantastic game. As with most as with all the popular Metroidvanias, the gameplay is smooth and it feels so good to play. It is a really incredible experience. And one thing in particular, I do plan on making like YouTube videos on my YouTube channel about most of the games I'm talking about here. So I'll be brief, at least I'll try to. Nine Souls. The one thing I will say about Nine Souls here is the art style is so incredible that it can ping pong between cutesy and adorable, horny furbait, and gory and visceral. And it just ping pongs between the three without skipping a beat. It's wild. And I love it for that. Next game would probably be I want to say Space Marine? Yeah, Space Marine 2. Now, I did originally play Space Marine 2. I didn't stream it on Twitch. I streamed it on YouTube, again, back in 2024. And, but I have played it a few times on stream now in 2025 with my friend. Space Marine 2 is a fun game. It started off super fun with very little to do. Like, you could beat the story in 8 hours. And then it started off with not a lot of content for customization in the operations and internal war. But they've added so much stuff. It is Space Marine 2 is now occupies a space in my library where if I don't know what I want to play at a certain time, I'll just fire up Space Marine 2 and do a mission of Inferno. But the game is super fun. It has its flaws, and Saber, to their credit, is working through some of their flaws. My biggest critique of the game at the time was that the warning for you have to dodge this attack versus the warning for you can parry this attack were too similar, and they sounded too similar, which was the big thing, because like the sound cue for dodge this attack would pop up, and it sounds so similar to the parry that I would just automatically parry, and you can't animation cancel into a dodge, so I would just get fucking mollywopped. Which sucked. But they have actually rectified that a little bit. The sound effect is very distinct between parry and dodge now. So they are clearly working to take some of the frustration out of it. You can still get spam locked to death. You can still get spam lock wombo comboed to death, which isn't great, but I don't know how they're gonna fix that really, other than making it so that I don't know, other than changing how stagger and stun and contested health works. Next one I want to talk about would be Dark Souls 3. So I started Dark Souls 3, and then I never finished it on stream. I never finished it on stream. I started it, but never. I've done 2 streams of it, and I got horribly lost, and I have no clue what to do. I might revisit it at some point. I have a bunch of other games that I want to play first, most of them Metroidvanias. The whole thing was like, I played Elden Ring. Elden Ring was my first ever FromSoft Soulsborne game, and I love it. I adore Elden Ring. And so I was like, you know what, I want to try some of the other games. Dark Souls 1 and 2 seem like they would be a bit frustrating because they're not as fluid as Elden Ring is. But Dark Souls 3 doesn't seem to have that issue as much, so I'll give Dark Souls 3 a try. I was having a lot of fun with Dark Souls 3, then I got to a poison swamp, and I got lost, and I don't know where to go, so I haven't played it. Maybe I might get back to it eventually, at some point, who knows. Maybe. Next up is Monster Hunter Wilds. I Ooh, I haven't played Wilds in a good long time. Wilds was fun for what it was. I don't think I'm a huge. I made a YouTube video on Monster Hunter Wilds. It got like no fucking views, which is fine. I don't really care if it gets views or not, but holy shit, did that video perform poorly. uh, but Monster Hunter Wilds, the game, I had fun with it. I had fun with it, but I don't think I'm not gonna go back to it over and over again. Like, it was fun. I rocked through the story. I started to get so burnt out on farming monsters to get the parts that I need for armor pieces, and farming monsters to get parts to convert into armor gems or whatever they're called, so that I can upgrade my armor pieces. It just started to drag for me, and so I dropped it after a while. And then I started hearing a lot about performance issues, which runs on my PC isn't a valid argument, but I never had any performance issues. I do have a beast of a PC though. Also, the Monster Hunter community just seems kind of shitty. Like, you have people complaining about quality of life improvements Wilds made to the Monster Hunter formula, and people on the internet are complaining about how it ruins it removes the spirit of Monster Hunter, which just... What? Just what? Like, adding a quality of life improvement, like being able to move the camera and rotate your character in the middle of doing a combo, is not taking away the spirit or the identity of Monster Hunter. That's removing old ass video game jank that existed because they didn't know how to do that in the PlayStation 2, and Nintendo DS era. You know, like what's the first Monster Hunter game on? PlayStation 2. Yeah, not being able to rotate the camera in the middle of a combo originated as old video game jank when they weren't sure how to do that kind of stuff. Like, how the fuck does adding a focus mode so you can rotate the camera in the middle of your combos lessen the experience as a Monster Hunter game? I don't get that. The Monster Hunter community seems so fucking terrible just to be a part of. Like, they're bitching and complaining about this game not having the soul of a Monster Hunter. Next game. Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 was such a good game. And I say was in the past tense, because Arrowhead, for whatever reason, seems dead set on ruining their own game and killing any goodwill they have with their audience. Why? I am scared to play Helldivers 2 because every time I play it, it freezes my computer. The freezes are temporary. I know people have had hard crashes and permanent freezes where they have to hard reset their PC. Luckily for me, I've only had like temporary freezes that last a few dozen seconds at most. But holy shit, is it scary for my entire computer to just seize up while I'm playing this game, and so I can't play it anymore. Every single update they release seems to just ruin the performance of their game, and they're constantly making weapons perform worse for some reason. Well, I know the reason. They're trying to chase a grunt fantasy, even though Helldivers aren't grunts. Like, Helldivers would be the equivalent of U.S. Navy SEALs or Army Rangers, not, infantrymen. If you want a fucking grunt fantasy, make a game about the Seaf Troopers. And give us 100 reinforcements. You know, Helldivers aren't grunts. Why are you trying to force a grunt fantasy onto us? It just doesn't make sense. And so they're making the gameplay experience worse to achieve this short-sighted goal that I don't think is even appropriate for this game. It's bizarre. Next up, Enna Dream Barbecue. I have been excited and waiting and excited for this game since it was first announced, because I am a huge fan of Joel G and his Enna series. I've been a huge fan of Joel G's Enna series since I think Extinction Party came out. I love the weird wackiness of the episodes of the animations that Joel makes. And when he announced that he was making a game, I was so excited for it. And then it came out and it was everything that I fucking wanted out of it. Like, this game is everything that I expected and wanted out of it. It feels just like you're in an Enna animation. It's such an entertaining game. It's another one of those walking simulators with a few puzzles and a little bit of platforming. But that doesn't matter because you're playing this game for the interactions and the dialogue of the weird, zany characters that are in this game. I love it. Next up, Hollow Knight. Specifically, trying to get the last few achievements of Hollow Knight before Silksong came out. Earlier 2025, I attempted to get the speedrunning achievement for beating the game in under 5 hours. For some fucking reason, I decided to do this in Steel Soul mode. Because I was pretty good at the game, and I figured it would add a little bit of extra stakes to it. After a couple failed attempts, first attempt did off stream, failed at the Hollow Knight. Second attempt did on stream. I think I failed at the Hollow Knight again. And then I did it on stream for a second time. Third attempt, failed at the Watcher Knights. Fuck me, I guess. And then my third attempt on stream, fourth attempt at the achievement, I finally got it. And it was in the stream titled, "This achievement is going to drive me insane." But I got it, and it was a super hype moment. Oh, it felt so good to do that. And then a little while later, back when Silksong was announced, back when Silksong was announced, its release date was announced. When Silksong's release date was announced, I then wanted to clean up my Hollow Knight save file and get all of the achievements so that I could say I 100% completed Hollow Knight, done everything, so I could start Silksong. And I did. One of the last things I had left to do, I had gotten 100%, I had gotten 112%, I had gotten 112% on Steel Soul, I got 100% in under 30 hours, or whatever the achievement is, I beat the game in under 5 hours, I got all the hard achievements except for one. There was one achievement that was staring at me, waiting for me, and that was beating Pantheon 5. I had been doing a lot of practicing of all the bosses, so I could beat all of the bosses super easily, except for Markov and Absolute Radiance. Markov is a bitch. Markov sucks. They took the floor away, and it makes the fight so much harder. And then Absolute Radiance is obviously the hardest boss for obvious reasons. And it's so funny because I was like, I'm going to stream it. It might take me several days, but I'm going to beat Pantheon 5 before I play Silksong. And I'm going to stream it. And like the first stream is probably going to take like several hours because I'm going to have to do multiple attempts. I beat it on my first attempt. The stream is like 2 hours long. I beat it on my first attempt. It was like, well, That was a lot quicker than expected. And you know what? I'll bring it up. The winning attempt was so goddamn close to me dying. I almost bungled it. I'm going into the last phase with 4 health remaining. This is not a good position. 1 hit left. I am not in a good position. Okay, watch. It might not be this guy. 1 health left. Watch this guy. Here he comes. Nope. There it was. Alright, not that one. This. Damn it. Was it this one? Was it that one? No, it was the next one. This one. Watch. It was so close to hitting me. But I got the last hit in right before it hit me. And I beat Pantheon 5 on my first attempt that day. But I got the last hit in right. Oh, that was such a hype moment. I need to make short form content so I can put all these clips up on like YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Next game. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 together: Bird Hike and Metro Gravity. Bird Hike is a fun little game. It's a fun little platformer game. I like it. It's enjoyable. I have not touched it since I played it. Because like you can easily beat it in like under 2 hours. It's a fun little game. Metro Gravity was a game that I was waiting for a while because it's a cool looking game. It's like a rhythm kind of Souls game with like Legend of Zelda level puzzles kinda, and I think that's really cool. Both of those streams got no viewership. And that's what I learned, that as a small streamer, if I want to grow, I can't play small games that not a lot of people know about. Which is sad, because I'd like to play more games, and I have a feeling, like I said earlier, I want to play Indivisible on stream. I don't think that stream is going to get any viewership. Because I see no talk or buzz about Indivisible online, so that stream is gonna get no viewers. Which sucks, because Metro Gravity is such a cool game. Next is Lies of P. Took me 6 streams to beat the base game, and then 4 to beat the DLC. 4 and a bit, because I did the final boss in like 30 minutes at the start of a stream. So Lies of P I think, is one of the best Souls-likes out there. Because it takes a few annoyances with the Souls-like formula and throws them out the fucking window. Most Souls-likes feel like they just devolve into R1, R2 spam. And like the special abilities that you can use with your weapons are either useless, don't do enough damage to make them worth it, or make you vulnerable while you're doing it, so they're not worth using. I don't feel like that at all with like the Fable Arts, they're called in Lies of P. And you can really weave them into your combat super easily. Especially the ones that act as like blocking and parrying, like obviously, you know. And like something that Lies of P does that I really love is it doesn't have stat requirements for any weapons. You can just pick up and play any weapon, and like obviously, if your stats aren't leveled to scale well with that weapon, it's not going to be as effective. But you can still pick it up and try it out with like the dummies or the training dummies or something. And I think that's really cool. It's like you already have a soft stat requirement with the scaling of weapons, you know, like if you have a lot of levels in Dex, You're not going to be able to effectively use a strength weapon, but I still might want to like try it out, see what it feels like, see if I want to do it on a respec or on a new playthrough. But then just having stat requirements means you can't really do that without respecing or starting a new playthrough. So that's something I really appreciate Lies of P for, is getting rid of stat requirements for weapons. And then all of the bosses in Lies of P are fun. Lies of P made a gank fight fun, and they did it twice. Now, when I played it on stream, you might not think that from my reaction, but I'm pretty sure I was dead fucking tired the 2 times I fought the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. So that will affect how capable I am and how much I am enjoying the fight. You can't account for the player being a fucking idiot. Whoa. Dog time. Pipes. Look, it's you. She's staring at my mum. Okay. But yeah, all the boss fights are super fun. And then the DLC turns it up too. It adds this really fun weapon with the gunblade. That's one of the most fun weapons I've ever used in a Souls-like. I didn't use it during my run because I was doing what was it? It's motivity, his strength, advance, a technique. I was doing a technique build. So I was using... What weapon was I using against Arlequin? I was using the rocket lance. That one. That's also a fun weapon. And then the final boss of the Lies of P DLC. I struggled with the final boss of Lies of P. I feel like there's a massive difficulty spike between Manus and the Nameless Puppet. But again, I was also like very tired at the end of a 6.5 hour long stream. So it probably would have been better if I just ended it and then started the next stream with the final boss and then moved on to the DLC. But I wanted to get the game done in that stream and then move on to the DLC, which I probably shouldn't have done. I probably would enjoy the final boss more if I played it awake and alert, which is not a mistake I made for the DLC, because I ended stream because I figured that fight was going to take a while. So I was going to start the next stream with that fight. And then I started the next stream and finished it in like half an hour. So I just played some Hollow Knight afterwards. We've got two... Actually, before I get into the next game, I want to talk about some games that I've been playing off stream. I played a few games off stream because I wanted to play them completely focusing on that game. No second monitor content, no stream running that I'm trying to be entertaining for, just only playing that game and focusing on that game. I did that for 3 games. The first of those games I'll talk about is a game called Star Overdrive. And that is a super fun open world exploration adventure game that you traverse the world on like this rocket powered surfboard. It's a lot of fun. I don't think it would have done particularly well on stream, just like Metro Gravity. There's not a lot of buzz about the game, so there wouldn't be a lot of viewership, people looking for it. There's nobody looking for me right now, looking to watch me for me right now, so I need to play games that people are looking to watch that game. Nobody would have watched Star Overdrive, but it's fine. I enjoyed playing it. It's a super fun game. It wears its Breath of the Wild inspiration on its sleeve. It's very obvious that it's inspired by Breath of the Wild. It's still a fun game. The second one I want to talk about is a game called Sable. Sable is a game that was, I think, improved by having that No second monitor content, no trying to be entertaining for stream. Just playing that game and only playing that game. I think it was improved by doing that. And Sable has become one of my favorite games, easily top 10. I love Sable. And I really hope the team that made Sable, Shedworks, I really hope Shedworks continues making games. It's two guys in a shed. That's where they got the name Shedworks. At least they started out in a shed. They made Sable, and I really hope they continue. They're working on another game, and they continue to make more, because I love Sable. I want to see more from those guys. But again, if you're going to play Sable, it is a game that benefits from having no second monitor content. It benefits as being a game that you are focused solely on the game. Yes, there's quiet moments when you're going between points of interest on your bike, but let those moments be quiet. Not too many people nowadays are not okay with just being alone with their thoughts in quiet. It does you a world of good to have quiet moments where there's no external source of engagement or anything, or any sensory activity, where you're just focused on a task, where you're just doing a task that you don't really need to focus on, and your mind is allowed to just wander and just sit in that moment for a few minutes, sit in that feeling for a few minutes. Doing that every now and then does a world of good for your mental health, I think. The third and final game I want to talk about is a game called Chants of Sennaar. This is Sable. I love the art style of Sable too. It's such a good art style. Star Overdrive, very fun game. I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit jank. It's a lot of jank. It's a lot of jank. I will say that. It's a lot jank. But it's still fun. And the last game I want to talk about is a game that I recently started playing in the last few days called Chants of Sennaar. Now this is one of the best puzzle games I have ever played. This game is so much fun. It's a puzzle game about deciphering languages, where like deciphering a language is the puzzle, and then there's also smaller puzzles spread throughout that require you to decipher certain parts of the language. And it's such a fun game. Like, I'm on track to beat the game pretty quickly. Super fun game. But again, once again, it's improved, at least for me, by not having any second monitor content or stream to be entertaining for. Just focusing on this game alone, it's improved so much. It's such a good game. If you like puzzle games, I recommend it. If you like Outer Wilds, if you liked Blueprints, if you're just a fan of puzzle games, I highly recommend Chants of Sennaar. It's such a good game. So, moving on to the next game. This one is a bit contentious. Expedition 33, I think, is the most overrated game to ever exist. I think it is the most overrated game ever made. It's an okay story with extremely well-written characters and absolutely mediocre at best gameplay. I don't think it deserves the amount of love it's gotten. It is the video game equivalent of Oscar bait, and that's why it won so many awards at the VGAs, because it is the video game equivalent of Oscar bait. a okay-ish story with extremely well-written characters and mediocre to bad everything else. I guess the music's okay. The music has a couple really good songs. I like Minoko's theme. I like the theme that plays in Lumiere at the end of Act 3. That's the one they played at the VGAs for that whole concert thing for it. But the vast majority of music in Expedition 33 is samey, blends together, and forgettable. The art style, it just feels muddy to me. It just feels muddled and messy and all over the place to me. There's no unifying style, at least to me, in Expedition 33. And because of that, I don't really quite like it. I like the areas that are like the rocks with gold veins through them, through like cracks, like what's that, kintsugi or something? Kintsugi, that's what it is. Kintsugi. It looks like kintsugi, and so that's really cool. But like everything else is just like meh. And my biggest contentious point is the gameplay. A lot of things in the gameplay are good in theory, very good if executed well, but easy to mess up. And I don't think they executed extremely well on any of it. The Lumina points and the Picto system, I think, is good in theory. However, in execution, when you have like dozens upon dozens of these things, it becomes annoying to go through all of them to find the ones that you want for the build you're trying to do. And like, yes, you have the option to save presets, but you have to make the build first, and you have to go through all of your Pictos in the first place to make that build to save that preset. It would benefit so much from having a sorting system of sorting for offensive Pictos, sorting for defensive Pictos, sorting for Pictos that heal, sorting for Pictos that generate AP, Pictos that proc off of base attack, Pictos that proc off of free aim shot, Pictos that cause status effects. You know, you could add these sorting methods, like these filters. You could add filters and make moving through all of the fucking Pictos that you have so much easier. And then the leveling system. They took the leveling system from Dark Souls and implanted it into a JRPG. But then they decided to opt out of any armor upgrades. It's so weird that JRPGs and Souls-likes, most of your defense comes from the armor that you wear. But then in Expedition 33, that's a JRPG formula with elements of Souls-likes, and it doesn't have any armor. And all of your defense comes from your stats. But you have to put stats into... But then also your weapons scale off of your stats like a Souls-like. So you have to put points into into your defense to increase your defense. And you have to put points into your health to increase your health. But you also have to put points into the stats that scale with your weapon. Because if you don't put any points into your health or your defense, you die in one hit. But if you don't put any points into the stats that scale your weapon, you do no fucking damage. They combined them in such a way and took out elements that just overall made the leveling system worse. I don't like the leveling in Expedition 33, because once you get to the end of Act 3, and spoilers for Expedition 33, obviously, once you get to the end of Act 3, there's two places. There's Simon, and there's the Endless Tower. And possibly also the DLC Candyland place that I haven't gone to and don't plan to. Simon and the Endless Tower are so fucking overtuned that in trying to build and level my characters to fight Simon and the Endless Tower, I breezed through the last section of the game. You go back to Lumiere for the last section of the game. I one-shot everything. You go to fight Renoir as the final boss of the game. I one-shot all of his phases. I go back to fucking Simon and I do the exact same thing I did that one-shot the final boss of the game against Simon. 1% health gone. A little tick, a little tiny tick of his health is fucking gone. And then he one-shots me. Why is Simon in the Endless Tower so goddamn overtuned? And then the parrying. Oh my god, the parry. Oh yeah, so to my point about Simon in the Endless Tower. So, in order for the fights to not take literal fucking hours, you have to focus all of your skill points into the attributes that scale with your weapon, so you can actually do decent damage. But then you have no points in defense or health unless your weapon scales with those stats. So Simon just fucking one-shots you. Because you can't do... If you fail a parry, a single parry, or a dodge in Simon's fucking 5-hit plus combos, you die. Your character just dies. And then Simon, the fucking asshole that he is, can for some reason erase one of your characters so they can't be revived, and that doesn't count as his action. He can do that and then make an attack. You know what would make Simon... Simon is a terrible boss fight. You know what would make Simon better? If removing a character from the canvas or setting one of your character's HP to 1 took up his turn. Why the fuck do those two actions not use up his turn? Why can he do both of those things, not in the same turn, but why can he do those things and then do an attack after doing those things? Jesus Christ. So, but then if you build for defense, put all your points into health and defense, and then one other stat of your choice, now you're doing fuck all damage, and the fight's going to take ages, so your defense isn't going to matter anyway, because he's just going to will you down eventually. Jesus. And then the actual combat of the game. JRPG combat with quick time events when you attack that can make the attack deal more damage, and dodging and parrying when you get attacked. This is not revolutionary. People say this is like revolutionary, like making a big change to JRPG formula. It's not. Paper Mario did this. And now is that game's over a decade old. This is not new in any way. And it's also been implemented so fucking poorly. I'm fine with the QTEs for attacking. Those are fine. But the dodging and parrying is so fucked. It actually reduces my enjoyment of the game. Because dodging, there's 2 difficulty modes in the game. I think there's 3. There's story, normal, and hard. I played on normal. If you play on story, it feels like you could just press the dodge button fucking whenever and you won't take any damage. And then on normal mode, I don't know if the window for parrying changes between the different difficulty modes, but on normal mode, the window seems too small sometimes and too inconsistent. Sometimes it feels like I have to parry right before an attack. Sometimes it feels like I have to parry when the attack is on top of me. Sometimes it feels like and then sometimes like certain like ranged attacks will have like a little indicator, like they'll kind of flash. Sometimes it feels like you have to parry when the flash happens. Sometimes it feels like you have to parry right before the flash. Sometimes it feels like you have to parry right after the flash. It's fucking all over the place. And then. So, here's the thing. I like parrying in games. I love Nine Souls. I love Lies of P. You want to know the difference between those 2 games and Expedition 33 is those games are consistent with enemies' attack styles. You know, You have enemies that attack right away, so it's obvious when you need to parry. You have enemies that'll hold their attacks. You have enemies that do a feint and then an attack. But the thing is, it's clear, and like let's take Lies of P for instance, and the boss fight with Victor the Champion. He has hold attacks, he has drag attacks, and he has feint attacks. Because he's a boxer. And you know what the thing is about Victor? Is all of those attacks make sense. You can make sense of the character that you're looking at, and you can, if you have high enough reaction speed, sight read all of it. I feel like it is very extremely hard to sight read anything in Expedition 33. The parry system was good in theory and good in execution because it's been done before, but I feel like here in Expedition 33 it was executed so poorly. There's too much variation, and that's the thing. Okay, that's the other thing. So in Lies of P, you have Victor, who has regular attacks, he has hold attacks, he has drag attacks, and he has feint attacks. But the thing is, those are all very distinct attacks. You can tell once you learn what he's like. It doesn't take a lot of attempts or a lot of observation to figure out the tells for which attack is which. And the thing is he won't do more than like 2 of them in a single combo. The bosses and some regular enemies in Expedition 33 will have these insanely long combos that mix up all different types of attacks. Immediate ones, drag ones, hold ones, feints. They mix them all up, and there's so often there's also visual obscurity because you have no control over the camera, and there'll be particle effects and stuff that make it hard to see what the enemy is doing, so you can know when you need to parry. There's just so much poorly executed in this game. I don't understand why it's being glazed as hard as it is. It's not that good of a game. Just flat out, full stop. It's not that good. Anyway, Expedition 33 rant over. Silksong rant incoming. The last game I want to talk about for stuff that I did in 2025 is Silksong. Silksong is my pick for the game of the year. Silksong has its problems. Like, my issue with Expedition 33 isn't that it has problems. It's that it's not as good as people say it is. Okay, here's the thing. People have said that if you don't like JRPGs, you won't like Expedition 33 as a retort to criticism. I like JRPGs. I love the Dragon Quest series. My first JRPG ever was Dragon Quest 9 on the Nintendo DS. Dragon Quest 11 helped me get through depression. I like JRPGs. That's not my issue. My issue is everything in Expedition 33 that isn't a JRPG. And my issue isn't importing mechanics from other genres into JRPGs. That can be done well. I think the parry system could be really good in a turn-based JRPG style game. I just think it's been executed poorly in Expedition 33. Silksong time. Silksong is my pick for Game of the Year 2025. I think Silksong on a whole is better than Hollow Knight. The movement is so much more fluid, so much more fast, so much more punchy. It feels so much better to just move around, and the platforming sections. So there's a joke when Silksong came out that every platforming section is Path of Pain light. I disagree. I think every platforming section is White Palace light. It's still, all the platforming sections are still quite difficult and definitely a lot more difficult than the platforming sections in Hollow Knight. But I wouldn't say any of them are anywhere near as hard as Path of Pain yet. I am actually excited to see what Team Cherry adds for Silksong's equivalent to Path of Pain. But the game is so much fun, and it's like I do plan on doing a video again, so I'll try to be brief. I do have an issue with the first act of Silksong. I think Silksong's biggest detriment is its first act. Its first act is too small, not too small, is too hard. It's plenty big enough. It's like Act 1 is like half the size of base Hollow Knight. I think it's too hard, and there's not enough rewards and upgrades. So Silksong, the movement and the combat in Silksong has been changed a lot over Hollow Knight, which was what Team Cherry wanted to do. You know, this Hornet starts, and Silksong started as DLC for Hollow Knight, but one of their stretch goals when they were a Kickstarter, when Hollow Knight was just a Kickstarter, was for Hornet to be a playable character. But Team Cherry never wants to do the bare minimum, didn't want to just make Hornet a reskin of the Knight. They wanted her to play like the Hornet boss fight. So that meant whole new movement upgrades, new movement systems, different combat style, different different types of attacks, you know. And so they realized that Hallow Nest isn't built for what they wanted Hornet to play like. So they would have to make an entirely new area. And so that would be the DLC Silksong. And then this ballooned in scope and scale. So they're like, fuck it, we'll just make a sequel. Hollow Knight Silksong. And so I believe they also quickly realized that, so I believe that Silksong is harder than Hollow Knight. The platforming sections are more consistently harder than platforming sections in Hollow Knight, and there's a larger number of enemies and bosses that do 2 masks of damage over 1 mask. Now in Hollow Knight, enemies that did 2 masks of damage were quite sparse and sparingly used. And so in Silksong, there's a drastic increase in the number of enemies that do 2 masks of damage. And I believe this was in part because Team Cherry wanted it to be harder, and I believe they're still operating under, I don't know, I can't think of the word right now, as if Silksong was still Hollow Knight DLC. And so, like, obviously, like, if Silksong is Hollow Knight DLC, it would probably be, like, near endgame DLC, like most DLCs are for games where the idea of the game is it's hard, like Souls games. You know, like the Lies of P Overture. The DLC, you can get to the DLC in the middle of the game, but everything is scaled and built for endgame stats, you know, endgame levels and weapons and stuff. And so I think they were originally planning to do a similar thing with Silksong. It would be like a near endgame DLC. However, they didn't reduce the difficulty enough when it became its own game. And so, like, arguments will be made that the game should be more difficult because it is the sequel to Hollow Knight and it started off as DLC for Hollow Knight, which I would agree with. However, its difficulty should still scale across the game. You know, like, the start, Act 1 should still be on par difficulty-wise as, like, as the start of Hollow Knight. The start of Silksong should still be just as hard as the start of Hollow Knight because it is a standalone game that someone can go and play without playing Hollow Knight first. So it should be just as hard, maybe a little bit harder than the start of Hollow Knight. I think the final bosses of Act 1 are fine. Last Judge and Phantom are fine. They should be hard because they are the last bosses of their act. of Act 1, depending on which path you take. However, the rest of everything is a bit too dialed up. You know, enemies and bosses do too much damage. They should realistically only be doing one mask in Act 1. And it just feels like they have too much health as well, sometimes, some of them. Savage Beast Fly. I think, because it's like, Morwing, I think, was nerfed, and some of his attacks went from doing 2 masks to 1 mask, which I think more of the bosses in Act 1 should employ. Like, I think Lace in Act 1 is a perfect example of what an Act 1 boss should be like. She does 1 mask of contact damage, some of her attacks do 1 mask of damage, and some of her attacks do 2 masks of damage. And she doesn't have that big of a health bar, so it doesn't take a lot to take her out. Because you don't really have all that many tools, and you don't have any needle upgrades by the time you fight Lace. And it's an issue of there's not enough substantial upgrades in Act 1 to warrant the bosses doing and being at the level that they're at. Like, you can get a single needle upgrade in Act 1. And you can get enough mask shards for a single mask upgrade in Act 1. And it's like, that's not a lot. The needle upgrade, I haven't seen the numbers. I haven't done the math, crunched any numbers. I haven't looked at the wiki or watched any videos on it. I feel like the first needle upgrade is a good upgrade against regular enemies, but doesn't do a whole hell of a lot against bosses. And you can't really get that upgrade until you've already faced most of the major hard bosses already. You know, like Morwing and Sister Splinter were massive roadblock bosses, I feel like, for a lot of people. They were right next to each other, and before you could get the needle upgrade, the first needle upgrade, obviously you could skip Morwing by moving the Flea Circus first, but a new player's not really going to know that, and an experienced player isn't really going to struggle with Morwing anyway. But yeah, I just feel like the bosses should be more like Lace. One mask of contact damage, some attacks that do 1 mask of damage, some attacks that do 2 masks of damage. I feel like that's how all of the bosses in Act 1, save for the Judge and Phantom, should be like. You know, I'm fine with Judge and Phantom doing only 2 masks of damage, although I think contact damage should be reduced to 1 mask for everything, except for maybe a couple enemies, like the Void enemies. Because doing 2 massive contact damage, I think, is a bit too much. That one should definitely be 1 mask of contact damage for everything, and then the biggest problem. Oh yeah, and then it's like, because like you can get 1 mask upgrade in Act 1. You can collect enough mask shards for 1 mask upgrade if you explore the entirety of Act 1. And when you're fighting enemies that do 2 massive damage, going from 5 masks to 6 is a grand total of no extra hits without healing. So I think a lot of the issue of Act 1... So I think Act 1 is too hard, and that could be rectified by reducing the amount of 2 mask damage dealing things, or starting the player with 6 masks, so that when they get their first mask upgrade, it is a substantial upgrade against enemies that do 2 masks, because you go from being able to take 3 without healing to 4 without healing. I love Silksong, and I think Act 2 and Act 3 are perfect. You can get enough. There's plenty of upgrades for you to get. The bosses in Act 1 and Act 2 are so much more fun. Like the Cogwork Dancers. You get the Cogwork Dancers. You get Grandmother Silk. You get the rematch with Lace. All fights that are just so much more fun than Morwing, Sister Splinter, and Savage Beast Fly. I can say with full confidence that Savage Beastfly is the worst boss fight in between both Silksong and original Hollow Knight. It sucks. Like the arena is too small. The body of the boss itself is too big, but also at the same time too small because I can't hit the fucking thing. He does 2 massive contact damage, and all of his attacks do 2 massive damage. He summons extra enemies, and some of those enemies do 2 massive damage as well. It's everything about Savage Beastfly. If 1 or 2 things were taken away, it would be a much more enjoyable fight. It's the things that add annoyance is it feels like it has an inflated health bar for the amount of nail upgrades you can get by in Act 1. It does 2 massive damage. It does 2 massive contact damage. It summons enemies. Those enemies take too much attacks to take down, and some of those enemies can do 2 massive damage. And some of those enemies have invulnerable points where you can't do anything against them. However, I will take that one away because the Savage Beastfly can kill its own summoned enemies. It's the thing of is like all of those on their own are fine, but combined together in the way that they are sucks so much. Like, I'm fine with bosses summoning enemies. One of my favorite fights from Hollow Knight is Lost Kin. But you know the thing about Lost Kin and Broken Vessel is by the time you reach the point where you're expected to be able to fight those guys, you have enough nail upgrades that the orange infection balloons that the boss summons take 1 or 2 hits to take down. At the point you're at, in Silksong, at any point in Act 1, if you go to fight Savage Beastfly, no needle upgrades or 1 needle upgrade, the enemies take 2 to 5 attacks to take down. That's too much. The added enemies are too tanky. And it's the thing of is the ones that take 5 are the ones that do 2 massive damage to you. And then the room is just too small and too cramped. Like, why did they make the boss room for Savage Beastfly so small? It's frustrating. And then, of course, the 2 massive contact damage. 2 massive contact damage is my biggest issue with Silksong. Primarily in Act 1. Once you get past Act 1, it's fine. Because, again, you can get more mask upgrades to mitigate it. But because you can only get 1 mask upgrade in Act 1, 2 massive contact damage is too much. But you might say, well, how would you do that for Savage Beastfly? Because it attacks by ramming you. Well, you could just make it so that its hitbox changes when it starts an attack. Have the idle hitbox that does 1 mask of contact damage. And then when it goes into attack mode, it becomes its attack hitbox that does 2 masks of any damage. Attack damage or contact damage, Anyway, I love Silksong, and I think I should have won Game of the Year. So yeah, that was everything that I've done, content and stream-wise, in the year of 2025. Overall, I'd say it's a good year. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of complaining at the end there. A lot of complaining. Because for me, it's confusion with E33. But for Silksong, with E33, it's confusion about how people think it's better than it is. And for Silksong, it's little problems that seem so obvious to fix that just weren't.